David, I am so excited for us to be having this conversation. You are one of the first executives who chose to hire me and work with me because you believe so much in the exponential power of recognition and you are a culture champion. We've had the privilege of knowing each other for 8 years now. It's been 8 years. I'm so excited for us to talk about winning cultures. Eight
Yes,
years. Yeah.
yes.
So, Compass Group Canada, I mean, you have won some pretty wild awards here. Canada's most admired corporate cultures. Wow. Great place to work certified. Best workplaces in Canada. Best workplaces with the most trusted executive teams. I can't imagine there's lots of people on that list. Sorry to say, but it's true. Greater Toronto top employer. And if that weren't enough, best places to work in retail and hospitality. I spent the first half a dozen years of my career, aka when I was a teenager, but still working in service and hospitality. I can't say any of those companies would ever be even considered for an award, let alone win one. David, I know you're a huge part of the success of those companies. I'm curious. Tell me about that legacy. Tell me a little bit about when you started at
Yeah,
Compass and that path that you've been on.
yeah, yeah. No, thanks, Sarah. And it's great to be with you today and talk about winning cultures because that's
Mm.
extremely passionate to me. And yeah, hopefully we can get into how that was created and as part of this conversation. I mean, I have to give kudos to, first of all, Lauren Davies and Sajid Khan, our CEO at Compass, for creating that environment and Lauren chasing all those awards.
Mhm.
But it's really, the awards are one thing. It's actually how that actually occurred and how
Yeah.
that happened, right? So, as you said, I've been with Compass Group, now retired, but was with Compass Group for 26 years. Was division president of multiple divisions over the last 10 years. And now Compass Group employs almost one out of every 1,500 Canadians. And when I started, we were like $100 million company, and it grew to over 2 billion. So
Wow.
it's been a phenomenal success, and I attribute all of it to culture at the end of the day.
I am so glad that one out of every 1,500 Canadians has a great place to work. Because I have to tell you, I've had many conversations with people today, whether they be coaching clients or other people in my day to day, and they don't always feel that way. So
Yeah.
that is a commitment, not just as like I'm sure a personal drive that you have because this meaning means something to you. It's also the ripple effects are massive. Like I'm
Hmm.
sure you can think of countless examples in your time as an executive where people shared with you years later the kind of what it was like working at Compass and how they felt about the company. Does that resonate? Can you think of some of those examples, those times where people
Oh,
shared with you?
absolutely. I mean, I would make it part of my week every week to make sure I touched with hourly associates through my management team, my exact management team, our clients. Want to
Mm.
make sure that, yeah, that the culture is happening, that you're part of something that's bigger and better than just working for a company. And so, yeah, relating with people and being with people, it was is all part of it. I mean, I love what Peter Drucker had once said that culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? And that's
Yeah.
so true. Like to create it, to have that winning culture is critical to an organization's success.
And recognition is the dessert. So tell me about recognition. When did you realize that recognition or how have you noticed over your career that recognition had to be part of that winning culture formula?
Yeah, so sir, I would say like to develop a winning culture, maybe we can break this down into three components. Recognition, I'd list as number two, actually. Number
Okay.
one, number one is really that authentic caring for people. That's
Mm,
foundational, right? So it's everything from their health and safety to their wellness. Care has to be authentic, and I call it just following the golden rule, quite frankly.
mm,
And people say, "Well, what do you mean by that, David?" Well, it's like never asking somebody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself, right?
yeah.
If you were doing that job. And it's also things like, I mean, I love this saying that Teddy Roosevelt once said is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right?
Yes.
So that's authentic, right? So when you have that through a culture and people are living that, um, that's number one. So
Yes.
number two, where you and I align, is recognition, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have that recognition. And I define recognition as more than that, 5, 10, 15-year service awards that
Mm-hmm.
happen in a lot of organizations. And many organizations are also good at recognizing their top performers, right? The ones that they want to keep, and
Yeah.
they do a pretty good job of that. But let's face it, 70% of the organization is made up of people that come to work every day that want to do a good job.
Yeah.
They may not be the next leaders based on their capability or capacity in their life with things going on, but they
Mm-hmm.
are the heartbeat of the organization. So
Mm.
great organizations figure that out and know how to recognize the heartbeat of the
Yeah.
organization, which is those 70% of the people that show up each day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love how you said that because I mean, really, when you're saying recognition second, I can't imagine how you could do recognition authentically if you don't have the first part. If you don't care
Yes.
about people, that is why it's very transactional, why you only recognize your top performer, because it's the transactional reinforcement of, I need to bribe you to stay. So, what I
Yeah.
just heard actually is recognition is number one and number two. It just gets a bit more formalized, shall we say, or clarified or distilled um because you're right, if you don't really genuinely care about your people, if 1 out of 1,500 Canadians are employed by Compass,
Yeah.
at least we know 1 out of every 1,500 people, the organization that employs them cares about them enough to make sure they're going to go home safely at the end of the day, that they're
Yes.
not going to be bullied, that they are going
Yes.
to be taken care of.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, and they take care of our customers too,
right.
right? So it's one great circle. You're taking care of your associates are going to take care of the customers, right? So, and
Well,
you've
and
heard some of those stories in the past,
I
right?
have. I
Yes,
have.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I
yeah,
loved hearing when I would do sessions for Compass, or hopefully we'll continue to have an opportunity to work, because again, you're a culture that gets it. I love hearing the examples that people share with me about the difference that they know that they're making on other people. So whether it's hourly associates, middle managers, the directors, the executives, everyone has shared with me at every level when I worked with folks at Compass. They've shared with me stories unsolicited about the impact that they try to have on other people and how they know that
yeah,
it's made a difference. I mean, that again, that is care because they
yeah.
care about people knowing that they care.
Yes, exactly.
Which I think is
Yep.
related. Something else that you shared with me in the past is about mediocrity, which is fascinating.
Yes.
Sometimes people think like that's kind of a stern way to say it, but the way you've described not accepting mediocrity reinforces everything that we're talking about. Can you dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so that would be the third thing. So again, we're talking about caring for people authentically. We're talking about recognizing people, but the third principle of creating a great culture is not accepting
Mhm.
mediocrity. So, you know, it does sound harsh, but it is true. You have to have high standards and you have to have high performance expectations. And it is critical to discipline and admonish and weed out those that don't fit. I mean, a lot of companies say, well, we got to weed out our 10%, bottom 10%
Mhm.
every year. Yeah, that's probably true for performance reasons, but for me, it's more than that. This is for culture, right?
Yeah.
If the bottom 10% don't get it, then they're actually killing your culture. So you need to strive for excellence and have the best people that and don't accept mediocrity at the end of the day. So that's the tougher part of being a leader and manager, but it is essential because you leadership's going to be respected when they weed out the bottom 10%.
Well, and I think that the place where we get a chance to be very discerning is not to just put a number on it. So I've actually been reading a fascinating book called The Man Who Killed Capitalism, and it's about Jack Welch.
Mm,
And
yes.
it's, I mean, it's a great book for anyone who's curious and doesn't know kind of where that whole model of the top 10, bottom 10, that whole performance based, filtering system happened. It tracks back to that. And then of course he and GE had such an empire and built such a massive, training contingent, mentorship component, that those ripples have gone out. Plus, of course, they were amazing at PR. So it's been in business cases and books and so forth. What is very different when you talk about mediocrity from what I hear about in that corporate sort of more cutthroat competitive world is chop the bottom 10%. Why? For profits. Why?
Mm,
For, to push a new product line forward. See, you're shaking your head.
yeah.
No, it's not.
No.
And that's really important. I hope people hear that. If you're looking at, we can't have people who aren't performing, it's not because you're trying to gamify the bottom line, which is in some of these
Yeah.
companies, that's what's happening. What is it
Yeah.
really in the end about? Why does it benefit everyone for having expectations?
Well, I mean, it's all about quality at the end of the day. You want a quality organization, and quality people is what makes the organization.
Mm,
So again, strive to get the best people. I mean, hopefully there's years where you don't have to cut anybody. That would be the perfect world, right?
right.
Because everybody gets it and everybody's on par with the mission, vision, and values of the organization. But I'm just calling it out that there will be some people that don't get it.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to make the tough decisions at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
and that's where you're recognizing and you're valuing the people who are in alignment with the values, because you're saying
Yes.
we choose you every day, just like you choose us. Yeah.
And you're supporting those people, right? As a
Right.
result of that, right?
Yeah. So
Exactly.
tell me
Yeah.
more about, how do you build and grow this culture? So you've got a winning culture, you've got these three key anchors that you mentioned. How do you keep growing it? How do you keep nurturing it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's one of those things that you should never lose, right? Like if you've got there and you got a winning culture, you need to be able to keep those values, right? Continue to remain humble. Don't be arrogant. Be hungry, not complacent. Keep the mojo going. Recognize, as we talked about, and celebrate success. Execute on your promises. Walk your talk, right? So yeah, you got, it's all about, as a leader, you can't ever think that you've arrived either, right? Like you never finished, right? So you can always strive to be bigger and better. And when I say bigger and better, I mean better is really growing your revenues and margins, obviously, but it's also about keeping your people and maintaining that culture, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and increasing quality at the same time, right? So there's always innovation that can be added to improve a product. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So again, I think that this is really, I'm guessing something that you brought into the organization. Like I'm guessing from how you're describing this is probably how you live your life. To what extent is this winning formula what you felt you were committed to personally? Like this is the type of or way in which you wanted to show up as a leader and the type of organization you wanted to work in. It just feels to me like it was a choice. It was a values-based or character-based choice for you. Is that
Well,
is
and
that
again, I go back to, I had great leadership I worked with that supported this. So
Mhm.
I'm humble enough to say this was not me. But
Mhm.
one of the reasons I sought out our relationship when I heard that you were a recognition expert, as I said, this is exactly the type of thing that we can build on in a culture, is right? Is that number two, you call it number one, number two, whatever principle
Yes.
of the creative winning culture. It is exactly what's required, right? And so
Mhm.
that resonated with me. Everybody wants to work on a winning team, right? Everybody wants to win. So how do you recognize, make recognition a big part of your culture? So yeah, and that's where you and I aligned, and I think that was a big part of it for me. Yeah, and then Uh, it's funny now looking back. Now that I've retired and off the Compass payroll, I do wake up some days and I pinch myself. Like, did this really happen? I mean, how did we go from 100 million to $2 billion and win all these awards and have a great career and have great people work for me? In fact, people that would even probably take a bullet for me, that whole will to win. So it was quite fascinating. And I just would say to anybody who happens to be listening today that when this world feels like it's changing, and there's problems all over the place, there really is hope. I mean, creating a great culture is possible. It's a mission that really all senior leadership in any organization can create.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, culture is king, and it's something that they can influence and make a difference in
Yeah.
people's lives. Yeah.
And that's such an important message that I really hope that people internalize is we often talk about the pace of change. We talk about automations and AI and uncertainty, whether you're talking about in terms of we got to get better at it and we got to get used to it and it's here to stay, or we say like, how do we retain it? How do we manage it? Whatever the case is, the way in which you choose to show up and design the type of organization that you would want to work in, even if even if you have a very small part to play in that, I hope people hear through those three things, right? Caring for people, recognizing and valuing each other, and not accepting mediocrity, and really setting
Excuse me.
shared expectations that everyone can aspire and be part of. I hope people do hear that message of hope that you're sharing, David. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's what you can control, right?
yeah, it's exactly it. There's a lot of times as leaders, especially when we were going through that whole COVID period, where we'd be saying, what can we control and what can't can we control?
Mhm.
And that's an essential question. Every leader has to get up every day, every week and say, what's within my control and what's out of my control? Because if
Mhm.
not, you get into this spin cycle, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that people spin on are things that they can't even control. So,
Right.
yeah, creating a culture is something that everybody in senior management, right through the whole organization of anybody that they're leading can control, right?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just because you can't
an
see it as
influence.
easily as a balance sheet doesn't make it any less important to strive for. So, and you've certainly given that evidence there as to the growth
Yeah, and
um that a company can have when
yeah, and for Compass, I still call it the secret sauce. It is their
yeah.
secret sauce, right? Because culture is everything.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So
and
let me ask
recognition
you,
is a big part of that. Yeah,
recognition is a big part of it, and
yeah,
it is maintained that way, I know, because as I say, 8 years ago is when we started working together, and there's been an unwavering commitment to recognition throughout that time. So it's been a joy to see that that it's not just the flavor of the month, that it
no,
truly is, and also that key cultural champions like you, even when somebody retires, it's not like then all that focus on recognition and culture goes. So that's
no,
also a true test of culture is can a focus on winning for us. And that's sort of how I see my experience with Compass. It's winning for us as opposed to winning for me. And that's the
right,
difference between that kind of capitalistic approach that we were talking about before. You can do incredibly well as an organization and still do it in an ethical way with your
yes,
people, for your people,
warrior
and for
people.
your
Yeah,
customers. You
and
don't have
yeah,
to sacrifice one for the other things.
no,
Yeah.
never. Yeah,
Yeah.
should never have to happen that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, David, let me ask you my favorite question to end an interview.
Okay. Sure.
What's the best compliment you've ever received? And by the way, listeners, watchers, and anyone who is consuming this yummy conversation, I do have to tell you, I had the privilege of seeing a retirement video that David received where people all across his career and all of his portfolio all shared this video. So it was amazing. So literally from that video, that 5 minute, 6 minute video, you could pick one. But I'm curious, let me just ask you overall, In your long tenured time, what is the compliment that deeply mattered to you and why did it matter?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to answer it in a broad brushed way. Just, I think, yeah, actually, I forgot about the retirement video too. You mentioned it right now,
Ah,
but it's,
there's the humble
it's,
again. Yeah.
yeah, no, but I think it's really the compliments people gave on how I helped develop their career, right? Just in
Mm,
their leadership and stuff. And I think that's the part because when you give back and help people develop, then to me that was the part that was most rewarding because I mean, the first part of one's career, you're developing yourself, and you never arrive. Like one of these people that believes in continuous learning for life. But then when you're at the end of your career, where you can give back and develop people, I mean, that's the most rewarding part, I think, for me. So when
yeah.
people gave me compliments about thanking me for their development,
Mm,
that was probably the most meaningful thing to me. Yeah,
yeah. Well, and you've been a huge
yeah,
supporter of mine, so I can see lots of people giving you that compliment for
yeah,
sure. Thank you,
yeah,
David, for taking the time to
yeah.
talk about your experience of building a winning culture. I encourage anyone who watches this to type in a question, a comment below, share a resource. Dave and I would love to weigh in on that in the future. In the meantime, how can people reach you? Should they reach out on LinkedIn? How can people reach you if they have more
Yeah,
questions and want to
probably
get to?
LinkedIn. They just find me on LinkedIn, and that's fine. Yeah, that's great.
Okay,
Yeah. All
awesome.
right.
Thanks so much, David. I
Okay.
appreciate your
All right.
time.
Take care. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah. Bye.